Club Penguin might be the most nostalgic game of my entire childhood. Back in the day, I didn't know what Skype was, I didn't know what TeamSpeak was, so me and my friend Cam would call each other on the home phone, put it on speaker, and play Club Penguin together. But sadly, the Penguin universe was short-lived. Eventually, it got bought out by Disney, and they shut down the Club Penguin servers. Luckily for us, there's still Club Penguin Legacy, which I honestly don't know if this is sanctioned by Disney or not, but it's super official looking and surprisingly really popular. So today we're going to be playing Club Penguin Legacy and seeing if it still holds up in 2025. Now we're going to be playing every single mini game in Club Penguin and decking out our igloo to be on fleek, baby. All right, I gotta stop saying that, it's really cringe. So we kickstart our adventure in Club Penguin. There is a tutorial, I skipped all of it. I'm a veteran, but despite our veteran status, we were extremely poor, and going and visiting our igloo made me feel depressed because it is a blank slate in there. We do start out with a little bit of Club Penguin cash, however, these coins aren't gonna get us very far. So let's start our minigame adventures. I really felt like one of the most nostalgic minigames was the sledding, so I headed up to the top of the mountain and waited in a queue where I only ever got one person to join, and I ended up coming back to that later. I was feeling a little bit impatient. There was too much to do. We had to adopt puffles and all sorts of things. I couldn't be sitting in a sled all day waiting for a game, so instead I went to something I knew I could play immediately, which was the minecart surfing. This was my all-time favorite minigame as a kid. Just so fun to do the tricks, and I remember it being really hard to get to the very end. However, nowadays, that difficulty isn't really there. I realized I might have just been an idiot as a child because I was able to tear it up in this minecart pretty easily. And I continued on the trend of mini games that I absolutely loved by going ice fishing. And one of my core memories as a child was my friend Cam showing me that if you held on to a fish to the very end and the big goober came, you could actually catch it with that fish on the hook. And again, I remember this one being a lot harder than it is now. I think as a kid, all of these mini games were a lot more difficult, and with basic education, they're all extremely easy. And while with kart surfing, I could see myself going back and playing more and just trying to max out my score and just have a good time getting on the leaderboard and things like that. It's a very repeatable game. But the ice fishing, on the other hand, it lasts a lot longer. It's a little bit boring, especially once you get the big fish. It feels like there's nothing else rare you can really catch. So this one really lost my attention, and I was fine with walking away with one round of ice fishing in my pocket. Now, at this point, I noticed everyone was talking about the quest system, and while I remember there being a ton of different events when I was a kid, I didn't remember the medieval event at all, so I thought it was time to check this out. Now, there's a list of quests you can apparently do. However, when I tried to do them, like climbing the entire treehouse, that did nothing. Never got the quest completed. I didn't know if I had to activate the quest somehow or do something. I couldn't figure it out. But there was a quest line in the sewers that you could actively go and do, and these ones were guaranteed to work because you just progress through the cave systems and complete these little challenges. Now, during the event, you come back every single week and you get to unlock the next quest system. So right now I was only able to do quest number 1, and let me tell you, this became the bane of my existence. We start off easy enough, waddling our way through these different pressure traps essentially until we click all of them and can walk through the door. That's all fine and good. Wow, really easy. No, the next one was my personal living hell. We had to throw snowballs at targets. Oh, that's fine. That's whatever. Who cares? Oh, I care, because half the time the snowball doesn't register, and you have to hit 50 of these targets. And when 1/4 of your snowballs do not register and hit, it's impossible. But it's fine. I was in this for the long haul. I wanted the loot on the other side because every quest room had a free item. So I just got it done. Took me a long time, but we made it through. And then there was the maze. I was a little confused about it. I could tell that the symbols on the wall were obviously some sort of clue, and then the game just directly tells you that next. The first wrong turn you take, essentially. I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. So I just start going through rooms, but I didn't realize this particular doorway takes you back to the last challenge, and the other challenge resets. You have to do it all over again. You don't just get to go back and forth as you please once you complete the challenge. No, you have to do the freaking snowballs all over again. And for some reason this time, it was like 1 in every 10 of my snowballs would hit a target. The rest would not register at all. I baby raged and I quit, and I decided to go and make a sandwich, leaving my penguin to mine in the mines, thinking maybe it would just keep giving me gold. No, you have to continuously move your penguin. Just sitting there for half an hour mining did really nothing for us, so that was kind of a bummer. I was just following everyone else's lead, but clearly I shouldn't have been. So I waddled my way back up to the mountain after this and actually waited patiently for a race to begin and got one. But there was something in the back of my mind while I played this minigame. I needed to solve that maze. I don't know why, but something primal unlocked in me, and I would not quit until we got through that maze. So after sledding, which was fine by the way, thank you for asking, I headed back to the cave, completed the first quest, and made it to challenge 2. And at this point, I continued to baby rage. All of my shots were missing, I was getting frustrated, and it seems like everyone else was getting frustrated too. And this one dude in the corner kept repeating, "Hide penguins to do it faster." And I thought it was gibberish. I thought, what are you talking about? I stopped repeating the same sentence over and over again and sitting there mocking us while we're throwing these stupid things. So I just kept throwing and throwing and throwing. 20 minutes went by with little to no progress. But then I thought maybe this guy wasn't just mocking us. Maybe he was a sage oracle. Maybe he knew what he was talking about. So I went up to Hash and I asked him, what do you mean? And he said there was a setting to disable other penguins. So I went into the settings and what do you know? You can hide all the other penguins on the map. And that made this 1,000 times easier. Suddenly, nearly all of my shots were hitting. It turns out that having a ton of penguins throwing snowballs all at the same time, well, the game doesn't like that too much and it just glitches out. But this one dude was sitting in the corner telling everyone this, but in a very confusing manner because there is a text limit in Club Penguin, so almost no one got his message. And everyone was typing that whole time about how frustrating this was, while this dude in the corner was being a literal hero. So I finally got through the throwing room again. You thought throwing snowballs was challenging? Just wait till you learn that I spent over an hour on the next puzzle, the maze, which we had entered previously, but I didn't quite understand just how difficult it was. Obviously at the start here, there's a bunch of question marks and a code: fish, crab, boot, jellyfish, and my obvious first thought was, oh, this code is the directions that you need to take. Maybe fish is left, maybe crab is right, etc, etc. And I had to kind of figure out which is which. So I began doing that. However, the first major problem was, does this first room count as the first direction? So I didn't make the mistake of going to the right again and getting back into the snowball area, or else I think I would have baby rage and quit. But I did begin taking notes on the entirety of the maze, which room was correct, which wasn't, and trying to figure out what the symbols actually meant. Now, I had way too many problems with this. Like, dear lord, this was freaking terrible, dude. This took me for freaking ever, and they didn't make sense. The correlation wasn't there, and I quickly realized the reason for that was because the first room doesn't count. I was assuming the first room does count as one of the directions in the code. It doesn't, and so it just doesn't work. You have to have that information or else it doesn't work. Now you might be thinking, wow, it's a little bit complex for a kid's game. Yes, it is. Well, you want to know why it's actually easier, but I was too dumb to understand? Well, the previous rooms had the directions. The challenge 2 room, for example, has jellyfish, go left, boot, go down. However, you can't know that because if you go backwards, you have to do every single freaking challenge again. again! Luckily, I was recording this, so I just went back in my footage and figured out the directions eventually, and was able to then do the maze from there. But had I not been recording, I would have hit the 50 snowballs again just to figure out the freaking code to the maze. But it was all worth it, because once I entered the enchanted Puffle room, all of my fishy problems went away, for I was a knight of Club Penguin. And well, after that, I was just a little bit frustrated, just a little bit. So I went to the Puffle Adoption Center. They're so cute. I went with the blue Puffle. I love him so much. And then I went and played Puffle Roundup, a game I honestly completely forgot about up until this point. And there's a reason why. I almost never played this one as a kid. It just kind of is mediocre, to be completely honest with you. The mouse basically herds the Puffles around, and it's just kind of frustrating because they randomly escape when you're trying to catch them, and it's just kind of janky. It's actually not that difficult, but it's just really annoying. Although on some forums, people were saying this is one of the easiest games to get coins in, because once you get the hang of it, you can do it extremely fast, and so the coin to time ratio is very high for this game. After which I went to the pizza shop to play the pizza making game, an absolute certified hood classic. My boys getting shrimp on they pizza, they getting squid on they pizza, they getting sardines on they pizza. It is delicioso, my guys. Yeah, this game was absolutely incredible. Just such a classic, such an unbelievable classic. After that, I went to the DJ nightclub and remembered how bad I was at this game. It's essentially just DDR, but in Club Penguin, and it's impossible to get a multiplayer game in this. So yeah, didn't end up doing multiplayer, but at the very least, got to rock out to some single player jams. And I went back to some more kart racing because it's so fun, bro. Kart racing is goated with the sauce, and I wanted to get some more coins. After which I continued my escapades to the surfing game, which was a classic. I mean, you do some tricks, you get some points, you get more coins for the points, and you're trying to impress the judges. It's definitely a fun game, although a little bit repetitive, and I don't think there's quite enough tricks to really get me trying over and over and over again. But this next game, I tried a million times as a kid, and I remember thinking it was so unbelievably difficult. The jetpack game. You would have to enter in with your jetpack, watch the fuel, make sure you don't bump into anything, and all the same time trying to collect coins. As a small child, this was peak intelligence if you could get all three of those things done at the same time. So going into this, I thought, wow, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this, man. This is gonna be crazy hard. I beat it first time. It's actually really easy as an adult to figure out. It's not that hard, and it's a fun one that I wouldn't replay anymore because the challenge isn't there, and I'm not horrible at it. I just kind of beat it, and that was that, but it's a fun mini game for a moment. Another one that I remember being so fun as a kid is the tubing mini game, which is still pretty fun. I'll give you that. You're jumping over obstacles, you're dodging things, you're getting extra lives in it and things like that. The only problem is it's too easy, and it just goes on forever, it feels like, and at the end, it's just kind of, I'm bored of it. I don't want to keep going. I'll just myself. Club Penguin is extremely nostalgic for me, but the more I played, the more the nostalgic kind of just wore off and I was becoming bored. The Knight's Quest was really fun because it was weirdly an actual challenge, and I struggled with it, maybe a little too much, but it kept me entertained for a while. But after that, and after playing all of the games, including some that I didn't really feel the need to review here, like Mancala, which just, it's Mancala or Checkers, and a few of the more minor games, I just felt like I was satisfied. I had that dopamine hit, I had that nostalgia hit, and I was ready to move on with my day. And I think that's pretty much what Club Penguin is now. A rotating player base of nostalgic adults who go in for an hour or two and then end up dipping. It's still very much worth going on every once in a while and checking it out and seeing if there's any events. But at the end of the day, Club Penguin, though an absolute certified classic, just hasn't gotten any updates and just grows stale after a while. Now there is card Jitsu, a whole game within Club Penguin that was introduced later in its lifespan. And Card Jitsu is incredible, but I didn't want to include it in this video because kind of want to do a sequel, because there was an IRL Card Jitsu game which you could still buy packs on eBay for extremely cheap, and not to mention, I might just go ahead and burn some hours trying to become a black belt in Card Jitsu for an entire video in and of itself. Let me know what you guys think, like and subscribe,